Hi everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm Miss Carrie and today we're doing something special, a book talk in podcast form. We're going to be talking about March, Book 1. It's a graphic memoir by Congressman John Lewis, written with Andrew Aydin and illustrated by Nate Powell. It's part of a trilogy telling the true story of Lewis's life and his role in the civil rights movement. And I have to say, it's one of the most moving books I've read in a long time. March, Book 1, is a work of nonfiction, a graphic memoir, meaning it tells a true story through comic-style illustrations. This first book covers Lewis's childhood in rural Alabama all the way through his early involvement in the sit-in movement as a young man. Today, I'm lucky enough to have a very special guest joining me. Please welcome Congressman John Lewis.
Thank you, Miss Carrie, for having me.
John, thank you so much for being here. Before we get into the hardest parts of your story, I'd love for you to take us back to the very beginning. Can you tell us about growing up on your family's farm in Alabama?
Sure, I grew up on a farm in Alabama, and even when I was really little, I loved to preach.
I actually have a passage from the book where you talk about this. Would you read it for us?
Sure, I'll start with page 27. So I preached to my chickens just about every night. I would get them all into their hen house and settle them in their roosts. They would sit quietly, they would bow their heads, they would shake their heads, but they would never quite say amen. Imagine that they were my congregation, and me, I was a preacher. Of course, anyone can figure out the danger of making pets out of farm animals, especially chickens. And then I liked a grown hen or even a chick would die of more natural causes. For these birds, I'd conduct a funeral. I would gather whichever of my sisters and brothers and cousins I could, and I would deliver a eulogy. I even went through a period of performing baptisms. But eventually, I began spending more time doing schoolwork, studying, and my eyes began opening to the world around me.
I love that so much. Preaching to your chickens every night? What made you want to be a preacher so young?
I just loved words, and I loved church. I guess I wanted to say important things, even if it was just to some chickens.
And it sounds like you really cared about those chickens, even holding funerals for them when they passed away?
Yeah, I know it sounds a little silly, but I did really love them, and it was hard when they died.
That part of the passage really struck me too. Even as a kid, you were showing this deep sense of compassion, caring for creatures other people saw as just farm animals. And then at the end of that section, you say something that really sticks with me, that school became important to you and that it's ultimately what led you into the civil rights movement. Can you say more about that?
Yes, the more I learned, I understood what was happening in the world around me, and I knew I wanted to help change it.
I picked this passage because it shows a side of John Lewis that a lot of people don't think about at first. He was just a little boy on a farm with a big heart and a love for words, long before he became a civil rights icon. This book connects really closely with another book I read this session, The Watsons Go to Birmingham, 1963, which is a historical fiction set in that same civil rights era. Reading John Lewis's real story alongside a fictional family's experience really deepened my own understanding of what that time in history was actually like for real people. March, Book 1, is a powerful, moving, and surprisingly funny book, and I'd recommend it to any student who wants to understand the civil rights movement through the eyes of someone who lived it. Thank you so much for joining me today, John.
And thank you for having me.
And thank you all for listening. See you next time.